Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's class. So there was a mistake yesterday. Kartamisha spoke on 2 verses, and because she got Dharmatma announced the wrong speaker in the morning, she heard her name, so she gave the class, but she was supposed to give tonight. So I'm going to read again text number 14.6, because this Gokuleshwara will speak on 14.7 tomorrow. And I may add a little extra from what she added, I don't know. So 14.6 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 14.6. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvāt. Prakāśakam anāmayam. Sukha-saṅgena badhnāti. Jñāna-saṅgena cānagha. Tatra, there, sattvam, the mode of goodness, nirmalatvāt, being the purest in the material world, prakāśakam, illuminating, anāmayam, without any sinful reaction, sukha, with happiness, saṅgena, by association, badhnāti, conditions, jñāna, with knowledge, saṅgena, by association, cha, also, anagha, O sinless one. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Hare. Yes, but she was supposed to do it tonight. It was a mistake. And I'm not changing the whole week. The devotees have already prepared their classes for tomorrow and the rest of the week. I'm not changing. So we're doing 14.6 again. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Please repeat. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Purport. The living entities conditioned by material nature are of various types. One is happy, another is very active, and another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status in nature. How they are differently conditioned is explained in this section of the Bhagavad-Gita. The mode of goodness is first conditioned. The effect of developing the mode of goodness in the material world is that one becomes wiser than those otherwise conditioned. A man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries, and he has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is the Brahmana, who is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness. This sense of happiness is due to understanding that, in the mode of goodness, one is more or less free from sinful reactions. Actually, in the Vedic literature, it is said that the mode of goodness means greater knowledge and a greater sense of happiness. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he is advanced in knowledge and is better than others. In this way he becomes conditioned. The best examples are the scientist and the philosopher. Each is proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. This sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness of material nature. As such, they are attracted towards working in the mode of goodness. And as long as they have an attraction for working in that way, they have to take some type of body in the modes of nature. Thus there is no likelihood of liberation or of being transferred to the spiritual world. Repeatedly, one may become a philosopher, a science, or a poet, and repeatedly become entangled in the same disadvantages of birth and death. But due to illusion of material energy, one thinks that that sort of life is pleasant. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyaham Sri Guruho Sri Yuta Paragamalam Sri Guruna Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tatra sattvam nirmalatvāt prakāśakam anāmayam sukha-saṅgena badhnāti jñāna-saṅgena cānagha. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reaction. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So because you've already studied it, you can tell me a little bit about it. What did you learn yesterday?
It was quite a general class actually. But I'm involved in some other things that someone else can.
Good. We come to the mode of goodness. We hope to be able to remember what we learned yesterday. Anyone else have any comments from yesterday's class? So what I wanted to, we've learned over and over again about the modes of goodness. So I want to touch on just some points that hopefully will make it more meaningful than us. My class may not be full length because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and so I apologize if I'm not fully satisfying you with my class. So when you read the first sentence of this translation, it sounds very nice. Krishna says, O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. So that sounds very nice. We all want to be freed from sinful reactions, and it's illuminating, it gives knowledge. So what's wrong with that? But then Krishna explains in the second line of the verse, Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. And he uses that word saṅgena twice. He says sukha-saṅgena, and then he says jñāna-saṅgena. So this is very significant, this conditioning. So Bodhidharma in his commentary on text number 5, it's a very short purport in text number 5, but Bodhidharma writes quite a long commentary. He says the living entity comes in contact with material nature and becomes conditioned by it. In other words, despite the fact that he came here desiring independent enjoyment, he has become subject to control of material nature, a very strict control. So the fault, he cannot blame Krishna. He cannot blame Krishna because he's come under the modes of material nature. And Bodhidharma says the fault which causes the soul's conditioned state rests in his own independent desire. We cannot blame Krishna any more than a criminal can blame the judge for his jail sentence. So Krishna gives us minute independence because he wants us to freely serve him with love. But we misuse it. We think we should be able to enjoy independently. So this desire to enjoy independently, Krishna calls enmity. He says that we actually have iccha dvesha because of our independent desire and our enmity towards the Lord. We think, why should he have it? Why can't we have it? So this what brings us to reject Krishna and our constitutional position. Our natural position in the material world, we have rejected this idea of servitude. But actually the natural position, the dharma, Srila Prabhupada explains it's like the part of a machine. It actually only fulfills a purpose when it's joined to the machine and when it's operating. It's not that it can enjoy separately by itself. It's not that it can produce anything separate by itself. It can't do anything separately by itself. In the similar way, a part of our body cannot enjoy separately from the body. It cannot eat. It cannot enjoy the rasgulla. It cannot go off and do something independent. Actually, there's no meaning towards independence. We're never ever independent. But because we have this minute independent ability to choose, which is given to us by Krishna's will, that we can choose to serve him, this leads to our problem when we desire to be independent from him. So he says, therefore, we rejected our constitutional position as Krishna's servitor, and we've come into a temporary material world full of illusion. We assume a false identity, a false ego. Krishna says he creates forgetfulness in the living entity. When the living entity comes into the material world, it's because he wants to enjoy separate from Krishna. So therefore Krishna gives him forgetfulness. He forgets his position, so he can go on with his desire to enjoy separately. So he has a false identity and a false ego. So this is where Mother Nature comes in. According to the desires, the identity is created, the body is created. And this is where the modes of nature come in. According to the quality of our desire, the modes of nature are giving us a suitable body. Prabhupada in his classes, he often talks about the hog, the pig. When the pig comes into its body, it's perfectly happy. But it's happy eating stool and living in the mud. And it doesn't achieve anything in its life aside from searching in the mud for something to eat. But for the pig, that's happiness. The pig is perfectly satisfied in that place. So even this pig, he's not in the mode of goodness, but even he is satisfied. Like when Lord Indra became a pig, because of some offense he'd done to his guru, he was sent down to become a pig in the material world. And the demigoddess wanted him back in the heavenly kingdom because he had to deal with some upsurge of demons. And he said, no, I'm perfectly happy being a pig. I don't want to go back. So this is the problem. Srila Prabhupada says in today's purport, this is the problem. Even though what little happiness we get is temporary and limited, we become satisfied with it. So based on the false ego that comes because of our desire, we get the body that suits. So we come into, now, where's my next one? So Prabhupada was talking about the modes of nature. He was talking about material nature. This is in the book Civilization and Transcendence, which is a very interesting book. Some organizations sent him some questions that they wanted Prabhupada to answer, and each chapter is one of the questions being answered. He gives quite nice answers. So he says in the material world, the materialists think that they're very busy, and they have to be very busy to gain happiness. So they become very busy trying to gain happiness, but they don't gain any more than those who are not busy. He gives an example of a high court judge. He says, some people think that the sages who go to the forest are very lazy, because all they do is sit in the forest all day and do nothing, just meditate. But then he gives the example that a high court judge, all he does is sit behind a bench all day. He sits behind the bench and sometimes nods and sometimes says a few words, and that's about it. He doesn't do much else. But somebody else in the same court is very busy putting stamps on things, calling people and going and getting people and doing all this. But which one of them is being paid the most? It's the one sitting behind the bench doing nothing. The one who's running around and doing this and that and everything else, he's not getting paid so much. He's on a lower salary. So Prabhupada gives the example that just because we think we can become busy in the material world will bring happiness, actually it doesn't. It doesn't bring success, and it doesn't bring happiness. So that was a very nice example. They are working very, very hard, but they're not actually achieving anything. So the devotees go on to question Prabhupada. It says that these people say we're escaping from reality. And Prabhupada says, yes, we're escaping from their reality. Their reality is a dog's race, and our reality is to advance in self-realization, Krishna consciousness. He says, therefore, mundane, materialistic workers are being described as mudas, which means asses, because the ass works very hard all day long. For the washerman, he gets piled up the clothes and he has to go to the river, and then he stands, and then he gets piled up to take home again. And the washerman gives him a handful of grass. And Prabhupada says, and the ass is so stupid that it's quite happy with that. He doesn't have the intelligence to think that there's grass growing everywhere out in the roads, in the forest, and if he just left the service, he could go and eat grass to his desire and not have to work so hard for his handful of grass. So that's why mundane workers are called asses. Prabhupada says when we go and preach to them, we go to their office and they say, no, I'm very busy now, I can't listen. He says, what are they busy? He says, even the one who's working so hard, he still has the same 2 pieces of toast and a cup of tea at night. Because he's so busy working, he doesn't have time for a good meal anyway. But he's busy working. Now, back to the mode of goodness. So, this is an article by Bodhijan Prabhu, writing on being for us as devotees, wanting to come to the mode of goodness. Because it's described we should come to the mode of goodness. And he starts off his article by saying, we must cultivate the mode of goodness. And then he says, but all of the devotees then protest, aren't we transcendental to the modes of goodness? There's no need of goodness because taking up devotional service, we kick out all the modes. But so Bodhijan goes on to explain he was in 26th 2nd Avenue, and Prabhupada had finished speaking. So he asked a question. He said, Swamiji, in your lecture you said devotees were in the mode of goodness, but I thought that devotees were transcendental to the mode of goodness. So Burijan said he didn't really understand what mode of goodness was or what transcendental meant, but he asked the question. But Prabhupada just gently replied, yes, devotees are transcendental to the mode of goodness, but generally they act in the mode of goodness. So Burijan quotes a verse from later in this chapter, 14:26, Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti-yogena sevati sagunan samiti chaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature. So, when we can come to that stage in devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, it's called avyabhicharina bhakti. Then we transcend the modes of goodness. But Burijan goes on to explain that for most of the devotees, we're neither completely in the modes nor are we completely transcendental to the modes. We spend some time in the mode of goodness. My Guru Maharaj would say when he's giving class on the mode of goodness, so you're all sitting here listening to class, so now you're in the mode of goodness. But we don't always stay in that mode of goodness. We're sometimes in the mode of goodness, we're sometimes a little transcendental when we're listening to a transcendental subject matter, but sometimes we slip into other modes. So Prabhupada has explained that devotees are considered transcendental by the mercy of the spiritual master, who offers their service, even though mixed, through the disciplic succession to Krishna. So when we make an offering, generally when we're offering an arti, there are two different ways of doing an arti. We can offer to our Guru Maharaj and then to his Guru Maharaj Bhaktisiddhanta, and then up the parampara to Nityananda, to Mahaprabhu, and then Radharani, and then Krishna. And this is going up through the parampara. So when we do this, my Guru Maharaj explained this is a fail-safe way of doing an offering. Because if I offer to my Guru Maharaj, he corrects my mistakes. And then he offers to his Guru Maharaj. And if he made mistakes, his Guru Maharaj will correct his mistakes. So offering in this way, our Guru is correcting our mistakes and offering it up. So it becomes offered to Krishna. It becomes nicely offered to Krishna. So in the same way, by offering the service through the disciplic succession, even though our offering is faulty, our mood when we're doing the service is mixed. When we dress the deity, we want to dress the deity to show off how nicely we dress. We start to think that we can make Krishna look beautiful, but even in the Shastras it's explained that actually Krishna makes his ornaments look beautiful. But we get a little proud of our service. When we offer food, we might be thinking how nicely we prepared it, or we might be looking at it thinking how nice it will be to eat. So our service is mixed. But our Guru, because we're offering up through the parampara, our Guru corrects our service. Then he offers to Prabhupada. Prabhupada corrects it and offers it to Bhaktisiddhanta. And like that it gets offered, and it becomes, and therefore we are considered transcendentally situated. But however, that doesn't mean that everything we do is transcendental. It still doesn't mean that our service is considered pure because our Guru Maharaj purifies it. But it doesn't mean that we're transcendentally situated all the time. In a conversation in 1976 in Vrindavan, Prabhupada said, being a Vaishnava is not so easy, or else why are they falling down? So in purport to Bhagavad-Gita 2:45, Prabhupada says, as long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Now, there's some nice explanation of that somewhere if I can find it. Because we're always going to be sometimes happy and sometimes we're going to be in distress. It's part of being in the material world, even though we're devotees. Somebody quoted in a class recently, a devotee went to Prabhupada and said, look, I've got this problem, my body is diseased, this is going wrong. Prabhupada said, so? The material world is like that. If you think you're free from that, actually you're an illusion. If we think we're happy and satisfied and nothing's going wrong, it might be for some time. But we have a habit to gloss over things that are not going wrong and forget about them. It's even known in psychology. Even when severe trauma happens to somebody, especially when they're young, they will retain no memory of it. Because if something's too hard for the brain to understand, it just blocks it out, completely wipes it out. That's why people who undergo trauma often don't even remember what happened. So we do that in our general life as well. We tend to forget about the things going wrong when we think things are going right, and we think, oh, things are not so bad here, the life is not so bad. And this is one of the traps of Maya that will keep us trapped in the material nature. So Borijan is emphasizing on the fact that we need tolerance, which is one of the 26 qualities anyway, but it's a very important quality, because while these distresses and even while the happiness is coming, we need to tolerate them. An example is Prithu Maharaj, I think, or Dhruva Maharaj, one of them. After the main story was over and they were ruling, it said that when something good happened, they were just remembering, they were experiencing the results of their good karma. And when something bad happened to them, they were just remembering, they were experiencing the results of their bad karma. So they just tolerated without worrying about who was doing what, who was causing it, what's happening. Oh, I'm happy now, I'm doing so well, everything's going to be good from now on. We have that habit too. I think I'm happy now, so everything's going to be wonderful from now on. And then it changes. So if we learn to tolerate, we can tolerate both the happiness and distress. So Borijan goes on to say that we should guard against this happening by seriously taking to the process of Krishna consciousness, while simultaneously guarding against passion and ignorance. In other words, while we want to transcend the modes of nature, we have to get rid of at least the modes of passion and ignorance and try and keep ourselves situated in goodness. So when we're not transcendental, we'll at least be on the stage of the goodness. Borijan says, discerning passion and ignorant qualities from pure devotion is as important for the devotee as it is for a gardener to discern the flowering creeper from the weed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gives this example of the creeper of bhakti and the weeds that have to be guarded against. And some of the weeds look very much like the creeper itself. Lack of discrimination may find a devotee nurturing only the luxuriant weeds of karma and jnana, rather than the true creeper of devotional service. By strictly practicing the rules and regulation of sadhana bhakti, all the good qualities of a devotee will automatically develop. But if we allow the weeds of Maya to grow along with our devotional service, the proper growth of bhakti Lata will not take place. Therefore, weed-like tendencies caused by conditionings of passion and ignorance should be uprooted, and one should strictly adhere to the process of Krishna consciousness while acting in the mode of goodness. So this is also very nicely explained by in Raghunath Das Goswami in Manasiksha, and by the commentaries given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how even in, especially Bhaktivinoda Thakur has gone extensively into these subtle weeds of having some pride in our position. He explains that there are different levels of devotees, and each has a different anartha that they have to get rid of. So the nirapeksha devotee is the one who's in the renounced order of life. So he's completely renounced, so he doesn't accept anything from others. But he has a little bit of pride in that being renounced. Oh, I'm so renounced, I'm more advanced than others. So this is his weakness. And then there are the paranishta devotees are the devotees maybe like us. We're surrendered to the Guru, we're serving in the temple. We're not doing so much of outside engagement in the material world. We're trying hard to be full-time engaged in Krishna consciousness. But we might get sidetracked by getting carried away with our preaching, or getting carried away by the attachment even to nice prasadam. We might say, oh well, let's go to this program because this, I know they cook very nice prasadam. You know, and we got a choice of 2 programs to go, oh let's choose that one because they cook so nicely. And sometimes it used to be like this here, if the devotees of Gopal Krishna Maharaj were cooking the prasadam, you'd know the feast would be very nice. So that's a favorite feast to go to. But this is a type of anartha. We should not choose prasadam because it's going to be nice, and we should not choose to go to an event because we'll get nice prasadam. And so this is a fault for what's called the paranishta devotees. So para means other. So they put their faith in the Guru, so it's para. And then svanishta devotees, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, they're the devotees who are living mostly outside, and they maybe don't have a very much formal relationship with the Guru yet, and they're following the basic religious dharma and doing their own thing. So they can get fooled into completely forgetting their goal and getting sidetracked by their material goals and getting stuck in karma kanda instead of following the prescribed practice. An example of this svanishta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains it very much in relation to things like the Purushottam Mas and Kartik Mas vrats. So when all these things you find on the internet, all these extra vrats are there for Purushottam Mas and for Kartik vrats and for this and that actually don't have anything to do with bhakti. You sleep on the floor, you eat only once a day. These are fine if they help your devotional service. But if they don't, then they're weeds, then they're anarthas to be removed. So these rules given are mostly for the svanishta devotees. And if we've taken shelter of a guru, then we should be paranishta devotees. We should be taking guidance from the Guru only, not looking here on the internet there and there, looking in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, seeing what else I can find. We can go deeper and deeper into what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And Srila Prabhupada is our protection. There was a quote, I think I shared one quote of Prabhupada this morning. Was it this morning's quote from the temple? There was one quote I put on there. Where was it? No, I can't remember where it was. I had one quote sometime recently that I shared. So, in this way, our shelter of Srila Prabhupada is what's going to save us. even though we have our individual gurus, our guru is the servant of Srila Prabhupada, and he is the surrendered devotee of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada has this special position because he's given everything to us. He's written so many books, he's given our daily program, he's given everything. And our gurus are serving him by training us in what Srila Prabhupada has given us. So Srila Prabhupada becomes our shelter. I was reading one nice article by Mahatma Prabhu. He was talking about the importance of worshipping Srila Prabhupada. And he says that if we have this collective management, like Srila Prabhupada has set up the GBC, we have a collective management, we have ISKCON, we know that ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's body. Srila Prabhupada said, ISKCON is my body. So if we look at it like this, then if something goes wrong with our guru, or even if our guru leaves, then we're not shaken because we have shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So Mahatma says, I know that if my disciples are fixed in serving Srila Prabhupada, serving the mission, they're fixed with faith in Srila Prabhupada, when I leave this world, they're going to continue their devotional service, they're not going to be shaken, and they're just going to continue advancing in devotional service. And he says, but if I see my devotees who just want me and nothing but me, then I'm very worried. When I leave this world, then they'll have to struggle for some time before they can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So this developing shelter in Srila Prabhupada, this is very important. This is our shelter. This will keep us safe from the modes of material nature. I can't remember when I shared that quote. I shared a quote on our group. It was said something that taking shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness, this is enough. This will save us. This will. I think it was, maybe in yesterday. Maybe I'll look again. I think I might have shared it yesterday. Where is it? If I look further. No, it wasn't yesterday. I don't remember where it was, but it was such a nice quote. I wish I'd found it. Okay, anyway. I've given you the general idea of what it was. I just don't remember exactly the words. So, for us, this understanding of the mode of goodness is important. We can also consider the stories. My Guru Maharaj gave a very nice class a week or two ago he was talking on Jad Bharat. So he was explaining the modes of nature. How, because Jad Bharat was carrying the palanquin of the king, and he wasn't carrying it very well, because he was worried about the ants on the road. So Maharaj was explaining that the king, because a king is a kshatriya, he's situated in the mode of passion. So therefore he got angry when his palanquin wasn't being carried steadily and peacefully. So just because he's situated in the mode of passion, being a king, that made him get angry. So the modes of nature act like that. When we're situated in the mode, it controls us. And he said, and the other carriers of the palanquins, they're sudras. So they're in the mode of ignorance, and they just do their service. They faithfully do their service. They just walk on the road. But Jad Bharat couldn't do that, because he was even transcendental to the mode of goodness. And therefore he cared about every living entity. So when he saw an ant on the road, he had to step around it. But the other palanquin carriers, the sudras, they just did their job, and they didn't care if they were standing on an ant. So he said this is why the clash is there, because the different modes are interacting. So if we consider like that these modes are here with our body. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that although chanting Hare Krishna gets rid of all our sinful reactions, which is manifest, not manifest, still in seed form, prarabdha, bija, kutam, bija, prarabdha and aparabdha, it doesn't completely get rid of them, because our body is a manifestation of our karma. And if our body goes, then we go. So this much we have to keep with us. But of course it's also explained that Krishna takes our karma away, but he will give back a small portion, inasmuch as it's good for us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Because we also have to learn tolerance. There's an important quality to learn. If we think that everything should always be happy and peaceful, then we're motivated. We're motivated by the desire to be peaceful. This is the same thing that these people in the mode of goodness are motivated by. They like being peaceful and happy. They like thinking that they know a lot. They like thinking that they have this material knowledge. So we can get also trapped in that. We shouldn't get trapped too much in these anarthas of the modes of goodness, that we want to be peaceful and happy all the time. Because we take that challenge to serve Lord Chaitanya, to serve Srila Prabhupada, and to serve our Guru, and go out and do some preaching, do some kind of outreach work. Even if it's not direct preaching, we go out and do some kind of outreach work, which is uncomfortable for us, but we do it in service of Guru. And learning that tolerance will help us advance more in Krishna consciousness than just staying at home being peaceful. Even though being peaceful is very nice sometimes, we need it sometimes. But we also need to put our heart into serving our Guru. In this verse 241, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekehi kurunanda bahu shaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So this resolute in purpose is explained in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Let me find it. So Srila Prabhupada, this is from Burijan's commentary, Surrender Unto Me. Srila Prabhupada once told his disciples that in the 1950s, before he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, he read the commentary on this verse written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He was struck by the commentary, which further fixed him in his resolve to follow Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order to preach Krishna consciousness in English. So the commentary is of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is, of all kinds of intelligence, the best is intelligence focused on bhakti-yoga. In bhakti-yoga, one's intelligence becomes single-pointed or fixed in determination. One thinks, the instructions of my spiritual master to worship the personality of Godhead by chanting, remembering, serving his feet, and so on, are my only sadhana, my only sadhya, my only livelihood. I am incapable of giving these up instructions, either in the stage of practice or in the stage of perfection. They alone are my object of desire and my only responsibility. Besides them I can desire no other responsibility, not even in my dreams. It is all the same to me whether I feel happy or unhappy, or whether my material existence is eradicated or not. So this shelter of the Guru, this exclusive shelter of the Guru, is the thing that distinguishes this transcendental mode of goodness from the ordinary mode of goodness. In the ordinary mode of goodness, we're just seeking to have a nice, peaceful life and live calmly and peacefully. But to get to this transcendental mode of goodness, we have to take the order of our spiritual master to heart and put that ahead of our own comfort and our own pleasure and our own happiness. And we come to that stage, then we become transcendental to the modes of nature. Okay, so anyone has any comments or question on the class today? Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
You were speaking about the spiritual master. Whatever we are giving to our spiritual master is giving to spiritual master.
Yes.
And Prabhupada has given us everything. But we said we do not add or do not subtract from there. But sometimes we see the time has gone and so many few things are there. So who is to be blamed there?
We had that in the last class I gave. Adi Dev Prabhu gave a nice answer that when we add our own realizations that help to explain to others, then that's useful. We don't add or subtract from what Prabhupada gave us in changing the principles that he's given us. I don't want to find anyone to blame. I know you like blaming people, but I don't. I prepared a whole class on Guru Puja, the importance of keeping Prabhupada in the center of our lives. And that's an individual responsibility. We're all here in ISKCON. We're not forced into any training package when we come into ISKCON. And some people might see that as a fault and say that we should do more, we should be more rigid. But we also follow Prabhupada's example, that Prabhupada was very, very merciful. And he gave initiation to people who didn't even really understood why they were getting initiation. Because this initiation is the start. It connects us to the Guru and Parampara. So the Guru is like that. He is merciful. He doesn't say, some of them may have 5 years of exams before I'll give you initiation. Generally the Guru, he will try and balance between training the disciple and accepting the disciple out of mercy. And we're not pure devotees, so we will make some mistakes. I also mentioned that. Our spiritual master is correcting our faults, but that doesn't mean that everything we do is pure and transcendental. So we have a personal responsibility to improve. And as we improve, more devotees will come in, and they will also need training and improving. So the institution, as a material institution, is going to be full of people who are in the process of purification. We're not pure devotees, so we will make some mistakes. It's not a fault in the process. The process is pure. We just simply have to stick to the process. And of course, working together when we're not with other people that are also not pure is part of the process that will help us become purified, because we have to learn this tolerance. If we can learn to tolerate, then that's our success and we will advance. We don't have to worry too much about the others. So it's best we take a personal responsibility and try to help those we can help. The GBC have the overall responsibility, and they're doing a very good job to keep our vision on Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. And so we have to be grateful for that, and take advantage of the training that's being offered in ISKCON that will help us all advance and help get rid of our anarthas like that.
Whether we are inside the temple or outside the temple, it's the same that we are connected with ISKCON.
Yeah, we're connected by initiation. How much we're connected to our spiritual master depends on our attitude. Srila Prabhupada says in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction, it's a very nice line. Let me read that one so I get it right. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So that's up to us. We have to get our attitude right, whether we're inside the temple or outside the temple. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't even make us in the mode of goodness. The temple itself is a transcendental place. But if we come here just to fill our belly because the food's free, then we're not transcendental. So it doesn't necessarily make a difference whether we're inside the temple or outside the temple. We need to look at our attitude, and we need to take what training is available to become advanced. Even outside the temple, there are so many programs, especially now coronavirus has put so many programs online. You can do your Bhakti Shastri online, you can do your Bhakti Sadachara online, you can do Bhakti Vaibhav, you can do teacher training online, and you've got so many other courses online. Living outside the temple and even living miles from a temple is not going to stop you becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness if you want to. Guru Maharaj gave one class on the New York, maybe somewhere in New York district, state, New York state, they have a Bhakti Sangha Japa group. So he gave class, and one devotee came on and asked the question, Maharaj, I'm not in the dissociation of devotees anymore. How do I get my enthusiasm back? And Maharaj says, what's the problem? You're on the Bhakti Sangha Japa group. Stay there and become enthusiastic and participate and ask questions and improve yourself. And the devotee, he said, yes, very good. Because this opportunity is available. I think he was nowhere near the devotees, but this opportunity is available. This group, they run about 4 or 5 classes a day, including a japa class. But they also run a Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, special classes. They have about 5 classes a day. So much is available, even for people who live far from temples. But our attitude needs to be there. Our attitude to want to improve, like that. Any other? Yes, Prabhu. Take the mic for those people online.
If a man is attracted to a woman, and then he gets a woman's body in his next life. But we see a man is attracted to woman because 1 second means this is over intelligence, means but my brain is thinking like this. Man wants to enjoy his body. He wants to enjoy being a man. So why should he get a woman's body? Because he wants to enjoy a woman. He doesn't want to become a woman. If you can just catch it.
So, yeah, in the material world, this all gets mixed up. Because even Srila Prabhupada has explained that all human beings in the material world are given the title Purusha, because actually they all want to enjoy. So that's why in the Shastras it all says he. It doesn't say sometimes he and sometimes she, because when we come into as in this material world, we want to be the enjoyers. Although actually we're all Prakriti. We're all part of the Shakti, this female energy. But we come here wanting to enjoy. So even whether we're in a man's body or a woman's body, we're all trying to enjoy. So this story of Puranjan becoming the woman in the next life, if the person wants to be a man, then maybe he will become a man. I mean, this Puranjan was so much attached to his wife, he was following her around. It's not that every man behaves like Puranjan did. He was following around and he didn't want to do anything separate from her, and he was so upset when she left him and like that. So his mind was totally absorbed in thinking of her. But it's said that this being in a man's body is wanting to enjoy Prakriti, wanting to enjoy nature. So this is an offensive mortality. But being in the woman's body is actually wanting to become nature. This is also an offensive nature mentality. So I don't think we need to get over intelligent about it. We really want to get out of this, right? We don't want the next body being either male or female. We want the spiritual body whatever it is that we won't know until we become purified. But already we have a spiritual body, which is where we should be. So I think I'm not planning to spend too much time meditating on this either way. Let's just go back to the spiritual world. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.